I'd like to introduce our next speaker, John Tierney, Nevada's own 2016 Teacher of the Year. Music, history, and politics have always intrigued John, helping to shape his life philosophy. As an educator, John uses his sense of humor to draw insight from the failures and successes from any one of those, or all three of those things. He brings humor and music to all aspects of his life. His wife is one of his biggest fans and champions. Let's give a warm Nevada welcome to John Tierney.
Stickers up here, right? Good. I'm a bass player. I've always wanted to be a bass player. But what you may not know is that by being educators, you're also bass players. Not everyone wanted to be a bass player. Sir Paul McCartney said nobody in the Beatles wanted to be the bass player. To us, he was the fat guy that sat in the back. I always wanted to be a bass player. Lived it. But I never got the connection between being a bass player and being a teacher until I became a teacher. And here's the connection. As a bass player, you are an accompanist. Your job is to make everybody else a star on that stage. You listen, you adjust, you do it on the fly, you do it seamlessly. Nobody sees your mistakes because you're on top of this. This is what you do. And as educators, that's what we do. It's our art. We understand it. You're all artists. And as artists, you know there are two constants in life. One is change, and the other is failure. Now, believe it or not, at one point in my life, I was a professional bass player. And that essentially means I paid my bills by playing bass, and I also had $3,000 worth of equipment in a $600 Ford Econoline van. This is me at my last show as a professional in 1984. It was in the Central Valley of California. I can no longer fit in the red coat, but I still have the bass. And on the way home from this gig, the engine blew in the van. And I took that as a sign, change has arrived. So I got on the phone and I talked to my dad, the teacher. And I said, Dad, I'm thinking about teaching, he's been there. And he said, look, if you're going to go into teaching, you got to love kids, hands down. Well, I had no kids. And I didn't know if I was going to love teaching or love kids. But I took the shot, and I moved back to the Bay Area of California, and I began teaching. I had a job as a full-time teacher by October of that year. The reason I got a full-time job in October that year is because I was teaching some of the most incorrigible kids at that school. These kids were deemed to be so bad by administration that they were not allowed on campus during regular school hours. And they had to be in a self-contained room. I also found out that they had already gone through 2 teachers. And it was just October. So I said, fine, I'll take the job, and I went in, and on the first day, I sat down with these kids, because I had to know, how can you get rid of 2 teachers that need the money? And they were really honest. They said, look, this is what these guys were doing, and I call this the textbook 2-step. We read the section, we did the section review, we had film strips back in the day. We had worksheets, and we hated every bit of it. And then we moved on, and then we did the chapter, and then we did the chapter review, and then we did the chapter test, and none of us like it. We all failed at that. And I listened and I said, okay, let's do something different. I'm a civics teacher. There are no right answers in social studies. So I said, here's my commitment to you. I will teach you civics as best I can. But we're going to use primary sources. We're not going to focus on memorization, right answers, and that kind of stuff. We're going to look at what do you think? And that's one of the toughest concepts for students to get, I find. I say, what do you think? They say, I don't know. I'm not asking what you know. I'm asking what you think. Well, I don't know. No. And it takes a while to get through with that with kids. At any rate, I got people from the community to come in with these kids after school, because we were after school and after their hours. We actually worked on projects and did some things in the community. We made it through the year. And it was a great year. And no, I don't have any pictures of these kids because I never thought I'd be here. But these were great kids. They were. They taught me about Metallica and Slayer, and I taught them a little bit about civics and community government. And we had a good time. But after 5 years of doing this with an at-risk audience, the grant ran out. What also ran out was my patience. I did not want to deal with 17 million people around me. I get claustrophobic. I took a job in Elko, Nevada, which is about 8 hours from here. It is closer to Salt Lake City than this place. And I was going to teach 8th grade, which I had never done. I decided, okay, I've always taught high school. I'll do this for a year. I'll get into high school. And what I found out is that 8th graders are not normal students. And what I also found out is that I loved them. And I came into the school, and a lot of the teachers were doing the, here's my notes on the board, and here's my lecture for the day, copy this down and listen. And I came in doing things like simulations, scenarios, different kind of stuff, and the kids really liked it. But here's what I found with these normal kids. There's essentially 3 kinds of failure with normal kids. The first one is the kid that has never failed. You know this kid. They've had their hand up since kindergarten. They are your fact checker. You say something, you turn and you get the nod and you know you're okay. So you can move on. They know how to play the game of school. They've been doing it forever, and they're very good at it. And then there's the kids who are absolutely afraid to fail. For whatever reason, whether it's sports, home, peer pressure, they're afraid. And they'll do virtually anything not to fail, because they know that if they get a D in class, my God, they're not going to be playing football on Saturday. And that's a big deal. And then there are the kids who love to fail. They wear this as a badge. They're very comfortable in their failure at school. They may not be failures in the community, and in fact, you'll find that they're the class clown. They'll crack you up, but they're not going to do well in your class. And they made that choice, and they're very comfortable with that choice. What I started to work with these kids is some different stuff. And what I found over the years is that it was okay. Kids liked it. They liked different. I tell them, we're going to use the textbook, but we're not going to use it much. And I'm not going to give you a worksheet ever. Okay? And they're like, yay, no worksheets, cool. And it worked. It worked for me. But and I've been at this 33 years, by the way. The last 10, 15 years, I found that students were not willing to take the chances. They didn't want to do simulation. They were uncomfortable with it. They were very comfortable with the textbook two-step. Tell us what you want us to spit back on the test, we'll do it. And I don't work that way. I absolutely do not work that way. And so I began looking for tools to help me. I found that my students would copy things, word for word, and I'd say, great, what does it mean? I don't know. Then why did you write it? Because that's what it says. And it's like, no, you got to put it in your own words. Demonstrate to me you understand this stuff. Now, that was a big problem. And so when I went to a conference, and I was talking to another teacher back east about this, and she said, the Qurandic. And I said, what? She said, she spelled it for me. Go back to your hotel room, look it up on the internet, you'll see it. And you'll know what to do with it. Okay? And I did. What I'm going to do with you, I'm going to show you the Qurandic, I hope. It's the next slide. I'm going to give you 30 seconds. And I want you to turn, talk, share, think. Number one, how would students approach this? How would you use this? What's this all about? And I got the clock right here. Forgot about Jeff Berlin. Anybody here know who Jeff Berlin is? Thought so, he's the bass player. Jeff Berlin says, if you want people to dance, do something familiar in 4/4, and they will dance for you. But if you want them to listen and learn, do something different. And the Qurandic is different. So, 30 seconds. There you go, I'm timing. I don't hear any talking. You're allowed. And I need you back here in like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and here we are. Okay? I was handed a class, actually. We changed in Nevada that you had to have a technology class, and it was 1 semester. They needed a bookend. They came to me, my administrator did. Said, would you please take your junior leadership class and make that an elective? And my response was no. I'm not going to make this, it wasn't elective. They wanted me to make it a required class. I said, no, I'm not going to teach every 8th grader. It's got to be an elective. And I went home and I told my wife this, and she said, you're stupid. She said, they're in a jam. You can do whatever you want with that class. And I said, oh, that's why I married you. She's much smarter than I am, by the way. She's Canadian. And so I went back to school the next day and I said, okay, I'll teach the class, but here's the rules. I get to do whatever I want, and I'm going to do primarily what the kids want. And my administrator said, all right, cool. All right. See, we're in a spot. Anyway, the first week, it's a 1-semester class, and the first week I've got to do a crash course in, we don't have a textbook here. Kids cheer. No worksheets for you. Yeah, all right. I don't want to hear, I don't know. When I ask you what you think, I don't want to hear, I don't know. I want to hear what you're thinking, because we value what you're thinking. And I don't want you to worry about failure, because I guarantee that if you try, you will not fail. And the kids that are constant failures are going, yeah, right. Been there before, heard that. You got to show them. And I believe, show, don't tell. So on Friday of the first week, I got parents already emailing me saying, I don't see any grades from my son yet. I know. Okay. So I sell this. Kids, we've got to do a grade. This is your first grade in this class. Okay? I'm going to give you this tool. And I pass this out face down, and I ask, Do you have any questions? Of course not. It's face down. They have no idea what they're getting into. But I do this, and I will say, okay, first grade, no cheating, no looking around. You're on your own. You can figure this out. I know. And then I say, flip it over. And it's fun to watch because I can already begin to categorize who's who in class. The kids who have never failed look at this, and they're going, oh, must be some kind of code. I can figure this out. The kids who are afraid of failing are panicking. They're looking around going, what the heck? And the kids who fail going, I thought you said no worksheets, man. This is a worksheet. Okay? And I do my best teacher thing, my best Madeline Hunter. I get my grade book and I start coming around. Okay, yeah, looking what you know. That's not quite a complete answer, is it? No, okay, fine. And I do, but what I'm really doing is I'm looking for how are these kids approaching it. There are essentially 3 approaches to this. Approach number 1, screw this, I'm not doing it. And that is a failure, because I guarantee you that if you try, you will not fail. And I say, well, hey, man, can't you give that a try? I don't want to, okay. Number 2, you can look at this and go, my training says worksheet. I'll go ahead and copy down the answers, and it'll be fine. Number 3, and this is what I did when I looked at this, you use your schema. And they go, I wonder what this means. I thought dinosaur. And I made everything in here fit dinosaur. Now, I'll tell you, I have done this with almost 4,000 students. And it is available on the internet, by the way. I've had 2 students say, screw this, I'm not doing it. They failed. I've had 3 students use their schema. And it's like, oh yeah, you're creative. And everybody else does this. And this is how we go now. Okay, we're all done. Here's your debriefing. All right, and I call random students. Mari. I'm not going to call on you for the answer. I'm just picking on you now. And I say, okay, Mari, what is a Korandik? And Mari will probably answer, it's an American drop with many fribs. And I'll say, and what's that? I don't know. You don't know when you wrote it down? Why did you do that? Well, because it said an American drop with many fribs. It's like, okay, what does it mean? Anybody? What does it mean? What? You got it wrong. Already the kids who have never failed go, I got a B. The kids who are panicking because they're going, oh my God, I got a B. And the other kids are going, told you, it's a worksheet. And I do this, and we go through the second one. Where does Korandik rank from? Korandik ranks from Scarp. Oh, I'm sorry, that's wrong. I got a C. Let's do number 3. Okay, I got a D. Do I need to go any further, people? And they're all looking at me and they're going, Mr. Tierney, is this really, are we failing? No. Did you try? Yes. Good. You didn't fail. But here's the deal. How many of you, and most of my students, we're a mining community. We are the largest gold reserve in the country, for those of you who don't know. And so we got lots of miner kids. I got lots of geology kids. And they come in and they go, well, I thought it might be about rocks or something. Why didn't you go with that? Why didn't you trust yourself? Well, because it looks like a worksheet. It's not. It's a tool. Right? So I want to leave you with a couple things here. Abby Wambach. Good, you know her. A couple months ago, she was at Barnard College doing a commencement address. And this is what she said to those college students. Listen, failure is not something to be ashamed of. It is something to be powered by. Failure is the highest octane fuel your life can ever run on. You got to learn to make failure your fuel. And I want to leave you with this because you are now all fellow low-enders, otherwise known as bass players. We have a saying in the bass playing community. You serve the song. I was talking with one of the players last night, AC/DC. Their bass player plays eighth notes all night long on the root note. Maybe 5 chords in a song. But you know what? AC/DC is not AC/DC unless that bass player is doing that. It sounds simple. It's not. And as educators, we've got to serve our students. We've got to listen to them, adjust to them, work with them, and support them. Push them to the point where they're not afraid to fail, where they know that failing in that classroom is actually success because they've pushed to that point. Don't make it easy. Make it tough. And support those people by being a wonderful accompanist and the bass players that you all are. Welcome to Nevada.